Have you ever used or heard the expression the tomorrow man? Maybe you've called somebody else the tomorrow man. I call my husband the tomorrow man. Why? Because everything is tomorrow or everything is later. I'll do it when I have time, but you have time now. Um, that's the argument. So, a tomorrow man is somebody who puts off something, always puts things off till tomorrow, and then never actually quite gets them done. And the thing they're putting off tomorrow, the next day becomes tomorrow again, and tomorrow is just another day, right? So it's just adding more and more days onto to whatever they're going to do tomorrow. Now, often the thing that they could be doing that they're putting off, and this is what many people are who are in lack or of some kind, or are in need of something, or are in a space of wishful thinking, are the ones that do this. They avoid it because actually the things they're putting off tomorrow are the things they need to um, alter or change or take action with in order to clear the energy so that the thing they want can come in, right? So, for example, when I do a wash, I put it on the line after it's washed, I bring it in, and then what I do is I sort everything out in the bedroom, put it in piles, and then I put, and I ask my husband to come and put things away, and he'll say, I'll do it later. Now, there is no time like the present, right? I mean, normally when I ask him, he's playing a game on the computer or he's doing something that really doesn't matter. He has got time to do it. He's choosing not to. So I say, okay, thinking, yeah, right. Okay, that's going to happen. And then later on, we come in to, we're getting ready for bed and his pile is still on the bed. And now what he does is moves it from the bed so he can clear the bed because obviously he needs to sleep, and then just puts it on the chair. Right, we have a chair in the bedroom. Often people have a spare chair in their bedrooms which they're not using. Why? Because either it doesn't fit in around the table or they just have no use for it. So it goes on there. So he fills this chair with it, which makes it look kind of untidy. Now, the funny thing is, the drawer that these things need to go in is right next to the chair. So instead of just kind of picking the whole pile up and sticking it in the drawer, he just leaves it on the chair. So I say, can you move that stuff? So the next day I say, can you put those things away, right? So every night he's adding to this pile. So he's saying, I'll do it in the morning. I'll do it tomorrow, man. I'll do it later, right? And again, one day becomes 2 days and 3 days, and then it becomes a week, and then I come back in and I'm washing again, and now on top of this pile we've got dirty stuff as well as clean stuff. He's not even taking the stuff from the pile and using the stuff, he's just adding to it. Now, what is that? Why is that? Why is it so challenging to pick that up and put it in? Because it's too easy, right? But it would mean he's clearing his space and making his environment nice to have nice things, right? Now, because these things are just stuck there rotting away on the chair, that means his things aren't nice. And then he complains because they're not, he wants new stuff. And it's like, but you don't look after the old stuff. So what is he blocking? Now, let's take, for instance, right, a scenario. Because generally the reason we're not moving these things or we're adding to the pile and we're making it is because we're creating a block ourselves, because we're too afraid of what could come. Now, why would we be afraid of something good, right? Because creating that space would obviously allow something to come in. Often we're afraid because the good thing that could come in is too good. I mean, really? I'm actually saying this out loud now. It's too good. Why is it too good? Because if it was lost, it would be a bigger loss, right? So really what we're doing when we're leaving these, or the Tomorrow Man does, and we leave these and create space or block the spaces, is that we're keeping the space that feels safe because we know it, rather than open up to something we don't know or unexpected, because it could be so great that we wouldn't know how to handle it and then we'd lose it again. Or it's something so precious that we wouldn't know how to keep it safe. Right? We know how to keep these little spaces safe. Now, for example, in case you're not following this, because I suppose it can be complex, but first of all, kind of look at the things that you yourself do, with clutter. There is often, if there is a space for everything, then you have no clutter, right? when you clear the clutter, it's actually making sure that there is a space for everything to go. And I don't mean on all the edges. Okay, some ornaments, but you don't need millions of ornaments. If you've got too many things in one area, you can't really use the area effectively. Ask yourself what that area is for. And if it's a table that needs to be used to eat on, then keep it clear, right? You only put plates on it when you're going to use it, or maybe there's a decorative item that can stay there while you're using, or it can just be moved aside. But really make sure that everything has a use, or it's available to be used, and that when you finished using other things, or using that space to use other things, there is a space for those things to go away, right? Now, if every area is used effectively and smartly and cleverly, then you have no clutter. You have a completely clear house, all right? So it doesn't necessarily mean empty shelves. It's just having something that enhances or is useful to that area. You know, don't put a shelf up and have an empty shelf if it's not going to be used. What's the point of putting it on the wall? If you think, oh, no, I need space clearing, so, you know, I need that empty, because that's kind of so minimal, it's ridiculous. Because actually you're blocking the wall then with just a shelf that hasn't got a use. You know, put something pretty on it, maybe a feng shui thing or anything. Now I'm kind of diverting now. But basically adding more, you know, if you're starting to build up with a load of clutter, then either you're not putting it away in a space, or there isn't room for it to go in a space. So if there isn't room for it to go in a space, then that means you need to start clearing, okay? So we'll look at clearing clutter later in another video, because I am diverting. But so let's get back to this scenario, okay? Good example. So we've got a man, okay? And he works for a really nice company, and he's been promoted, and he's getting to know his boss, and his boss has invited him round to his house a couple of times, and he comes back, you know, and he's had a lovely time with his wife and everything. They go around and they've started to get quite social with the boss, and the boss keeps kind of hinting at coming back to his, right? And he's like, well, you know, he's been put off by this, because he's a bit concerned that his standard isn't going to be up to the boss's, because when he go, you know, he's still okay, he's got a promotion, but all his money goes into the kids, paying the mortgage, or, you know, buying new things that he doesn't need, you know, all these things, and the house is just always a clutter, right? And so he puts off, but he's also, because he's concerned, right, his biggest fear, that if he brings his boss round, he might think less of him, or he might look down on him, or he might be judged, right? Okay, so this is going to come to something in a minute. So this man at the same time makes more clutter. So again, he comes in, kind of doesn't do anything about it, and leaves things around. Effectively, he comes in, instead of hanging his coat up, he puts it on the side table. He walks into another room and puts his keys somewhere else. He's looking for something in his pockets, so he empties his pockets and just puts them on the side. And he says to his wife, I'm going to do some washing up, or I'm going to put these, you know, I'm going to clear this space. So he's moaning about the space because it's a bit untidy, because she's at home with all the kids, maybe, you know, all this stuff. The kids have just had playtime, right? So he goes round and he says, oh, and he's in a stress because he's thinking about his boss and all this. So he goes and starts clearing. But instead of, you know, he washes up and everything, does that. But instead of putting the stuff away, he leaves it on the side, even though the cupboards are really close. So we've got this kind of habit forming, right? So again, all of his washing, his wife said, oh, your stuff's in the bedroom to put away. And he goes in, and instead of, when he gets undressed, he looks at it and goes, oh, I'll do it in the morning. So I'll do it tomorrow. So we've got this thing, and all the clothes are on this chair. Now, when he eats dinner with his wife, there's only enough, you know, they only use a few chairs, right? Because they've got the kids and everything. And this table could be extended, right? So at the moment they're only using, they've got 4 chairs around this table. And if you extend it, you bring in the other chairs. So the other chairs are stuck in the bedroom with all the clothes on and all the bits and pieces. And when he goes to bed, he takes his tie off, he just hangs it over the back of the chair with the other ties that he used last week, and an old shirt, and, you know, some things have been kicked under the bed now. This chair is now completely covered with stuff, right, after a week, after a day in our house. And then he starts talking to his wife and says, oh, you know, it was a lovely evening, but, you know, I really feel like he wants us to bring people back, but I can't because it's such a mess, you know, and I think he's going to really judge me and everything like that. So, and in doing so, he's just making more clutter. and he's the tomorrow man. Now, if he was to clear that chair, right, um, and he valued himself higher, he would take the time to put those things away, clear the chair, and then the chair would be there and used, because then the boss would come around and you could extend the table. So his table of receiving food and digesting good things and having laughter and social times around the table, and being able to give back to his boss and all this kind of thing, and maybe another chance of another promotion from doing so. I mean, I don't mean like butter up your boss to do it, but you know, he's enjoying his job more, he's less frightened. Suddenly everything becomes clear. Instead of that chair, because though the boss comes around regularly, they keep the table expanded. And the chairs stay around the table this time, because now they're entertaining more people. But there's nowhere to put the clothes, so he has to put them in the drawer, right? So what I'm saying is that what we often do is the one thing that we want, we block, or we do something to block it. We're blocking the energy of what we could be using something for, because we're afraid of what doing that means. So it's very much like people that say, oh, I'm not lucky, I never win the lottery. It's because they're blocking that, because, you know, I really want it, but they don't, because if they really had it, they wouldn't, you know, they'd be afraid of losing it, because they've had such great losses in their life. So consider that. Where's your dumping ground? You know, are you a tomorrow man or a tomorrow woman? Sorry, or a tomorrow gender, however you want it. You know, are you putting off something that you could do today? When somebody says, oh my God, you know, say you've wanted the biggest job in the world, right? Of, I don't know, writing for a magazine, right? And suddenly you get offered this job and to write an article, and you think, great, I've got a month to do this, right? But you've been wanting to do it, and you've been going on about it forever, you know, and saying, please give me a chance, give me a chance. They're saying, okay, here's your chance, right? And then you spend the whole month not actually doing that. You're just excited about it, but not actually writing the article. And then suddenly it's the last minute, and then you're stressing because suddenly you've left it too late. It's almost like you're self-sabotaging. If you've got that article in early, you might get another article. But this time you hold out to the very last minute, when everyone's stressed or everyone's, you know, because then it might come back on you and you might fail, and then, you know, you'll be back in your security zone, because really what you want is to keep things the same. And, you know, you might find you've got a partner that, you know, is a tomorrow man, or is actually blocking your energy, right? And, you know, every time you clear up, you know, they're kind of filling the space. Like, again, this is something I have where I live, but I refuse to allow that to be accumulated. So I go round and clear, and I make sure that it's put away. But then in the same vein, you know, then I notice where I've done something and I'm doing the same thing. So start being really aware that, you know, you might be, again, by avoiding putting those clothes away, or by telling somebody and going on about them, about their mess and what they're not doing, is the same avoidance. It's all avoidance. It's avoidance of you. It's avoidance of addressing what is in you. Okay, what we're afraid of is shown to us. So even though I'm saying he's dumping things, there's things that I will do as well. One thing that he's noticed is I leave cupboards open. I mean, my feeling with that is that so I've got a way out. There's a quick exit. But, you know, there's always a reason for doing these things. It's a block somewhere. It's something we're looking for. Okay, so maybe I am leaving the cupboards open. So I'm just looking at a cupboard now wide open, so I can get in easier. I can get in and out easily. It's quick access, right? Maybe a quick escape like that, you know, through the wardrobe into Narnia. You know, I'm in an expansive period. And I noticed it was a habit that kind of came back. So kind of really take time on this, you know, look at, are you a tomorrow man in some place? Are you avoiding something? What is it that you are putting off tomorrow that could be done today? You know, when somebody gives you advice, you know, if you're listening to this vlog now and, you know, you're taking all this in, you're going, yeah, I've got the theory, you know, yeah, great, I get that. Are you doing something with that advice, or are you just listening to millions and millions and millions of vlogs on the same subject and just still in wishful thinking, when you could actually do something about it? Often the thing you want the most, you will put off. If you have lack of any kind, if you have a lack um, in you, you know, a fear of success, a fear of commitment, a fear of something, it all comes from lack because it's coming from a focus of what you can lose when you have it. If you have suffered some great loss in your life, this is the time to heal that loss and to start looking at how you are effectively securing and protecting yourself and blocking little ways, just so you're blocking. It's like creating a new wall, a new, you know, so that the invaders can't get in. And as long as you stay behind those castle walls, everything's going to be fine. Okay? So if you can kind of look at that effectively, really dig deep, you know, look at what annoys you about somebody else and then look at yourself. Look at what you do put off. What is it that you're always wishing for that you never quite attain? And what is needed or necessary to start that process and why you're not doing it. Okay? And then things will start changing. You'll start clearing these spaces. You'll start understanding how you may actually be sabotaging yourself and that actually it isn't someone else. It's easier to blame someone else. It's easier to find an excuse. If you are not taking responsibility, you are avoiding. You are avoiding something that you are frightened of. Face that fear, understand that fear, and then you can clear it and release it. It's very much like, you know, inviting, it's, you know, it's like inviting vampires to your door. Yes, we don't really want them in there. However, we could extinguish them if our house was, you know, if we turn the lights on, or sorry, let light flood in. You know, they might come in the darkness, but you can deal with it until it's daylight, and then they, you know, they'll be extinguished. Maybe that's not the greatest scenario, but basically, if you suppress fears, if you push them down and keep avoiding them, they will stay where they are and you're protecting them rather than acknowledging them, saying, hey, this is my fear. I know what that is now. Then it can go. All right. Then there's space for you to kind of address something else. Okay. Because there's always more than one. So if you want a private reading, you want a private coaching session, you want to sign up to some of my programs, then do go to the website www.saraperry.me and please download my book, Love Yourself Wealthy. This is all to help you have greater fulfillment and abundance in your life and to have the life that you always dreamed of.